right. TikTok. We're on the clock, so I will call this meeting to order. DeKalb County Commissioners, the date is October 10th, 2022. Morning, Dottie.
Good morning,
What
everybody.
you got today?
Hey, yes, happy Monday. Let's talk a little bit. Last week, you agreed that I would be the chairperson of the safety committee, and one of the things that we have historically had some fingers in is CPR training for our employees. And we do have a couple departments, well, actually 3 departments who really should have safety training. The CPR training, that would be the Sheriff's Department, Community Corrections, and Sunny Meadows, because they are a residential facility. Sheriff's Department takes care of that themselves, and they have to, because of the new hire situation over there, they have to do it probably, a lot more frequently than the rest of the departments because of that, that situation. Community Corrections is looking into, after the last safety committee meeting, looking into who they need to have trained in that. And because it was this topic that was brought up, in the past, the previous chairperson made arrangements with actually 2 of our employees, but at the time, they were Sheriff's Department employees who did the safety training. The sheriff paid them to do the safety training on their time. And then the county paid the $25 fee per student to, it was DeKalb at the time, and the American Heart Association for the cards, for the maintenance, the just keeping track, all of that. However, in the past, the county never paid the teachers for the class because the sheriff just kind of let them do it and he paid them. Well, now we don't. I'm still looking into it. I think we might have 2 employees out at Central who could do CPR training. We still have one of those original teachers as an employee, but he is employed in a different department, and not sure that that would be fair of that department to have to pay his hourly wage to teach a class for other people. I am looking at, other options, but wanted to kind of put this as something to keep in mind that if we were to hire, an outside source, I'll look at that to see if, if Parkview, the American Heart Association, if they do that, how much that would be. I have talked to one of the individuals, one of those original individuals who still is a certified trainer for CPR and does it, can do it elsewhere. The classes generally take 2 hours and a maximum of 10 students per class is what you can handle. And probably a decent, flat fee if we were to pay one of our employees. We need to look at that. What would that be? If we can't, could we pay them just a flat fee, not an hourly wage, because then that would kind of go against, working in another department or whatever. It gets kind of messy probably. So, for 10 students, for 2 hours, maybe $200 for that is what I was thinking. But I still have to get with Parkview DeKalb to see if they do it and how much they cost. How much they would charge to do it. So anyway, an FYI, to keep that in the back of your mind, I'm working on that. We currently do have individuals who are still employed with us, who are CPR trained. There is a list on the intranet site. I have checked with Ben for the Highway Department to see if any of his people are still certified. And, that's an every 2-year thing to be certified. And so I have yet to get back to him. And I think Michelle Fosno at Community Corrections may be looking at it to do that on her own because of, money situation. And so we'll get together and talk to her about what her plans are. And, rather than reinvent the wheel, if she's already done some of this legwork, then she's done some of the work for us. So anyway, something to keep in mind. Our hiring situation, we have 3 drug screens for the Sheriff's Department are done. Now it's a matter of, I think, scheduling. I do believe we have one scheduled to come in later this week for an onboarding. So that would be confinement officers, although we have one leaving. So once again, it's another one of those. We're not catching up.
Switch out.
And we're still down, umpteen officers. So it's, yeah. The Highway Department, I have had no inquiries on Indeed for the last week, and I hadn't gotten an update yet from Ben. I'm sure he can give you one when he pops in later this morning. And the Extension Office, as of Friday, had out of their 175 resumes that they got in, and about half that I forwarded on to them, they have 23 resumes to review, a second review. So they're narrowing that down. The prosecutor's office has one individual starting today. And speaking of the prosecutor's office, there is discussion with the presumptive new prosecutor regarding a victim advocate position that would be grant funded. That is going to be a big topic of conversation with the Job Classification Subcommittee when we meet on October the 20th. And I have informed the prosecutor's office that, some of the protocol that we will have to go through, and that you would have to approve a new position in that department, and then what would happen if the grant runs out. So, like I said, that will be a topic of discussion with the subcommittee. The Title 4D, just in the last couple weeks, they have 65 inquiries on Indeed. That doesn't include the ones that have come in via other means. We haven't had a lot of those, but so they are back in the hunt for a case manager for child support. Sunny Meadows has 2 full-time and 2 part-time positions still open, and to remind you, we have 9 weeks basically until the administrator's last day. So
9 weeks.
9 weeks, if you think about it, December the 13th. Yeah. So I have had no responses to any of my postings last week. Lindsay did an excellent job of creating a flyer, kind of a poster, for those positions, and I took a stack out to Sunny Meadows and asked Don to please get them, posted on bulletin boards, or, hand them out to his employees. Maybe somebody knows somebody. We've got, I also, I have this kind of network of actually churches here in DeKalb County, and I send out these postings. If you happen to know anyone in your congregation, or you know somebody, is there a possible way that you could post it on your bulletin board? So we have that. So I'm trying to have Dawn even think creatively, hey, who are some of our people who donate time out there? How would they like to work there and actually earn money instead of donating? Or organizations that donate to them. Maybe they know somebody. Maybe there's somebody within their organization. Once again, you're thinking so far out the box that you can't see the box anymore. It's just really frustrating. Frustrating on my side, but heck, those guys are working overtime. Don's putting in hours overnight to take care of that third shift position that they still have open. So that's a real situation.
Just another one of those complications and moving parts of that whole situation.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep. We have a lot of those moving parts. So with Central, we have 3 who are starting this week with their training, and so that's a good thing. Now, Development Services has their part-time clerical person. We made a deal, I guess, with her, when we were discussing the training, and she's been here a bit, and how it wasn't quite working out, and then decided, okay, now we shuffled some things around. She was putting in a few more hours. We all thought that that would help repetition more often. And Chris had a discussion with her last week, and she's also agreeable that it's not working out. So we need to start from scratch on that one. Well, actually, not from scratch. When we interviewed, thinking that we were going to replace this person a few months ago. So we had one that we really liked, and she's now not available. So, but Chris did contact her. So now we're back in the hunt for that position. So anyway, that's what we're doing with our hiring. Let's see. I think I sent you the flyer for Sunny Meadows. Feel free to print it out or ask us to print out some in color. And if you know anybody, we're happy to do that. And actually, like I said, this was Lindsay. I gave her the posting, said, hey, can you come up with something that's eye-catching? And that's what she did. So it's good. It guides people to the website so that we can, they can get all the information there.
Given the nature of those openings, director position aside, maybe we want to take a look at temp positions temporarily. Brian Nugent's got that True Care, which is home health care oriented.
Right.
We can only stretch the current staff so far without getting in trouble, and a temp who's qualified for the residential kind of things. We don't have to worry about benefits or anything else, or ending that relationship if we hire somebody. So that may be a partial answer.
Okay. Historically, the county has not used temporary staffing firms, and that seems to be kind of a statewide thing with all of my HR network. And so this would be something different, and I can certainly look into that. If you think that might be a good way to go, we would, how temporary services work is that you generally, it's bring the person in, they only work for a short period of time. You do pay more than what we would pay an hourly rate, but the company pays for all work comp. They pay unemployment. If,
don't have
you
to
know,
worry.
so there are lots of administrative fees, you know, so they have to make a profit in addition to paying that employee a wage.
I would submit that this is far outside the historical norms, and we need to look at some additional resources if we can't fill the positions. I mean, you can't run a 24/7 operation with 2 people.
Right. Okay, I will definitely do that. I will look into that.
Yeah, and that also gives us some breathing room to continue our evaluation of this whole
Would
situation.
that put us into another fee-for-service situation, basically,
Yeah,
Right,
rather
yeah.
than
yeah,
the higher?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, yeah. Let me write that down. Fee for service, okay. I'm not sure what Sunny Meadows might have in their budget for that, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So, okay.
Not enough, I'm sure.
Yeah.
No, not likely.
I doubt it, you know, I just doubt
Well, I
it.
think, given the circumstances, I suspect anyway that council would work with us.
I'm sure that they would, yeah, I'm sure. The only other thing really HR-related is the job classification committee meeting on October the 20th at 3 p.m. in my office. We're going to be discussing something that came out of council meetings, and that's longevity pay, something that several other counties and cities do have. It's all the way across the board. Basically, it is paying an employee X number of dollars for the number of years that they have been employed, years of service. That's separate from their hourly wage, and it runs the whole gamut. We've got counties or cities that are paying $50 per year of service and starting it at, 1 year of service. Others that are starting at $100 and starting it at 3 years of service. In my previous life, we had years of service awards that we gave, and initially it was a catalog that the employee could choose a really great item from the catalog, and it was your third year catalog, and then you had a 5-year catalog and on up, and so the monetary value of the items increased. We changed that to because of the culture of the corporation with whom I worked, Cabela's gift cards, and they and it was the same, $50 at your third year, $100 at your 5 years, go up $50, thereafter. And we also did a nice years of service award certificate along with the gift certificate. And so anyway, in a way, it's sort of, kind of the same but different. This is actually monetary, where the county or the city has a separate check that the person gets. And so I have done some work with my HR network on this topic, and council is going to be looking at that. Then we also have the victim advocate in the prosecutor's office, the deputy veterans service officer, the job description needs to be approved, and then also if we make some changes with Sunny Meadows administration, we need to take a look at that job description also. So that's another item on, as other business that we will be handling. So if you're available, that's not until the 20th, but I thought I would mention that to you. So the other thing is the building fascia on the 9th Street Annex is looking really great. It doesn't look like, the building doesn't look like 1960s East Berlin. And we have had flying rats, no, yeah, bats have flown out, they take the, that old rock stuff, gravel fascia off, and, they've flown out. So that happened in the back. Same thing has happened in the front. We're hoping that that may take care of our bat bug, whatever infestation that we have in that building. So fingers crossed, because there's a real, they're sealing everything up. And it looks really great. So, and I tell the crew every time I walk out of the building, how nice it is. And that's, I stopped and chatted with Larry and the crew leader as the guys were up in the bucket truck, and just thank them very much. And I want to thank you also for the facelift. And also, I think it's also safety, health related also. If we have less of that kind of bug stuff going on, I think it'll be a healthier environment for our employees. Yeah. So anyway, what else do you guys have for me?
Anything for Dottie?
Nothing for Dottie.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Other than, just to be clear, I was not advocating for True Care as a company.
Right, but
I mean,
yes.
there's
No,
half a dozen of those
There are, yeah.
in-home care companies around.
You do have a couple people interested in the director job out there, I understand?
We do,
According to your-
yes. Yeah, I have forwarded to you their resumes, and they are not interested in living at the facility. So that would be, if not, the council has calculated, I think $15,000 is what they feel is the housing allowance, what that's worth. So council may have to think about bumping up the wage, the salary for that position if there's not living at the facility, but changing, some other things that, criteria with that. I'm not sure what the discussion will hold with them. I have sent them the information, the job description for the for that position, and like I said, we'll have a discussion then at the subcommittee. But the two that we have interest in were word of mouth. We haven't even advertised for that position, so that's a good thing, and they both have really great qualities too. I think.
What is Don's salary? Do we know offhand?
No, but I bet Susan could check it out.
You could probably find that.
I know, she can probably find it at fingertips,
Right at her
yes, I know.
fingertips.
I don't,
I think it's around 35
think-
plus the
It's mine.
plus the
Housing.
housing, yeah.
I do not have that.
Basically 34, 479
Okay, yeah.
That's a new,
plus housing. That's current.
that's current, so it's another,
And then you have to add another 15 on it, was what they kind of figured. Yeah.
anyway.
For 23, it is 36,203.
And one of my problems is there's not another position like that I can compare it to in the state of Indiana. We're so unique that way. So where Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy has it, in the classification, of course, it's based upon the job description, which I have reviewed that job description, and I see a lot of changes that would have to be made.
Have we reached out to, I think there are still 9 other counties that have homes.
Right.
I mean, they must have a director.
Right.
Or something. That
Yeah.
Maybe we could reach out.
Yeah. But they don't live on site,
Well,
and
yeah,
their
okay, yeah.
job descriptions are so different than what ours is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of wing it.
It's, comparing apples to kumquats. So they're so different.
A
Yeah.
sticky wicket.
Yeah,
no
it
doubt.
is. It's a sticky, that's another, moving part
Yeah.
to this puzzle.
We did do a walkthrough with the occupational therapist last week, just to get them a sense of the whole situation. So we're kind of moving forward with that. We'll have the final proposal for all the assessments here pretty quickly, I think.
Good.
Okay.
That'd be
okay.
good, yeah.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That will
the,
help guide us
Yeah, first piece of the puzzle.
what comes next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes, yeah, definitely. And I was glad that, Don was a little embarrassed about, and it's like, don't be. This is how the building is. This is how our residents live. This is the workspace that, a new director would come into. Our employees work in it. It was perfect. It was exactly what the occupational therapist needed to see.
Yeah. We don't
So
need
it
any
was-
fake fronts or anything.
Right, exactly. Yeah, don't put on
Put on the Ritz. We
right.
just need that.
Yeah, right, yeah.
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 Little silk purse and sow's ear thing.
Yeah, yeah. Don't put lipstick on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Anything for Dottie?
Okay.
You are free to go.
All right.
You can go catch a bat.
Great.
Herd the bats.
Yeah, I'll go.
Herd them in there. Herd
That's
them out of
right.
there.
Yeah, get them. I'll herd them.
A bat
Yes.
herd.
All right. Well, you know where I am, so.
Okay. Thanks, Dottie. All right.
I bet you'd like somebody to move to approve claims, wouldn't you?
Probably. That's probably next.
Well, I'll do that.
Okay, we have a motion to approve claims, and I will second that motion. Any other comments or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same, motion carries. And then the minutes.
I'll move to approve those as well.
I will second the approval of minutes. Any additional comments or corrections? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same. Minutes are approved.
Well, might as well move to approve travel while we're on a roll here.
And Bill, I added 2 additional for Mike for travel. One is happening this week for a health summit in New Haven, and then one is happening the 21st.
Okay,
This week's is mileage for $26.50, and the 21st is $193 for mileage and parking if they have parking.
did we have another one with the motel deal where they paid, wanted meals?
That was the one,
That same one?
that
there?
was when we talked about it, and this is now the actual request to approve.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that was all from
That was
Central,
last
the
week.
same thing. Yep.
And just a footnote too, Mark Olivero sent in as a travel request in for that same mental health summit on the 21st.
Muncie.
We may ride, and it's in Indianapolis at the convention center. We may ride down together, so it could likely be just one of us claiming mileage.
Oh, okay.
So,
Sounds good. Okay, travel,
yeah, I moved that already.
Okay,
So you can second it now.
I'll second it.
All
then.
right, there we go.
Any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same, motion carries. Sunny Meadows Refrigeration.
I talked to Don about that when I was out there last week. They're not gonna replace that big commercial refrigerator.
No.
Not for 12 grand, or, he's got enough money in his budget to buy a couple of large capacity ones at Home Depot, and they've got room to stick them in there, and that'll take care of whatever they need, so, you know, probably $1,500, $2,000 will get it taken care of.
Just basic refrigerators.
Yeah, yep.
Yep. Sounds good. I'm glad he's got the money to do that.
Yeah,
And there's no point in going any further than that, or more
No.
expensive, considering the
yeah,
flux that's out there.
yep, I agree.
All right, Woodland Lakes,
Well, that one probably needs to wait because you were wanting Todd's,
yeah.
I think Todd's to weigh in on it also.
Yeah, that's a $500 request. I did talk to
Yeah.
Commissioner Shelton from Steuben County. He's familiar with them, said it's a great group, and they've been very pleased with
Have they?
with their activities in Steuben County.
And I had emailed their auditor,
Auditor.
and she said that their commissioners budget for that allocation out of their seeded fund every year, that it isn't approved.
I'm tempted to go ahead and move on that.
Yeah, I'll move to approve the $500 request for Woodland and Lakes.
I will second. Any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same, motion carries. Yeah, I think we just put that behind us.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's not, 5,000 might have been different, 500, it's just
yeah, I agree.
get it done.
The only other thing that came in that I didn't have on here last week is St. Joe's Spencerville Regional Sewer District. They need us to, they're recommending you to appoint Jack Chapman to their board. They just need an approval.
Well, considering how tough it is to find anybody to serve on any board, I will move that we appoint Jack Chapman to the St. Joe Spencerville RSD.
I will second that motion. Any additional comments?
They're very strong members. I've done work for them, I don't. I try to save them money, so I'm not going to all their meetings unless something comes
Yeah.
up.
Comes out.
But I know from
Great.
All
Thank you.
right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same, motion carries. Your signature on that? And say either way, got a line down there, but
Yeah, let's just have you both sign it. They have 4 lines, we'll just have you both sign it. The Woodland Lakes, that was just for this year, correct?
yes.
Thank you.
22.
Yeah, that was a request. Okay. Miscellaneous topics. Anyone? gentleman in the audience. Is there something we can do for you? Come up to the mic. Is that mic on? Little green light on?
Blue light, there should be a gray button in the middle.
Now it is. Can you hear me?
Yep.
What can I ask here? What all can I ask? Whatever I want.
Well, generally, you contact the auditor's office to make an appointment to meet with the commissioners.
Okay.
And so we have a topic that we know that you're talking about.
Okay.
So-
So you would rather me not ask anything right
It will
now?
be up to the president on
We've
what,
we got a light schedule today, so
Okay.
introduce yourself and your address, home address.
I'm Andrew Provines. And I live out on 3920 County Road 75, right next to the proposed solar. So it's about solar. It's not mean or anything, and it's not aggressive. I just have a couple questions, general questions.
what county road did you say? I'm sorry.
County Road 75. And I actually talked, Bill, I called you last week about this, but the lack of fire plan.
Yeah.
So my concern here is that from everything I've garnered from talking to insurance companies, which has been 4, 5, 6 insurance companies, no insurance company will write this. No one will sign this. No one will actually give you proof. But everyone we've talked to said that if they burn down our woods, our house, our structures, we're liable. They said the only way that that is not true is if we can prove negligence. But when told the setbacks, et cetera, they said, well, basically if the ordinance is this, or if, commissioners or whoever has said this is okay, then there's no negligence. So the landowners will be responsible for any damage that they do to our property because they've been, it's been made okay that there is no negligence. That's one of my main concerns. And this stands to sit about 25 foot from my woods max, based on the setbacks currently.
Well, I find that very curious. I'm a licensed property and casualty agent,
Okay?
and I have never seen a policy that would,
This is coming from about 5 or 6 different insurance companies. And this
Well,
is talking to the agents themselves and saying, hey, what happens? And they give you the whole, spiel where they say, okay, tree falls on your house from your neighbor's yard.
yeah.
Act of God.
Mhm.
Tree falls on your house from the neighbor's yard, but you've been asking him to do something about it for a long time because it's rotting, etc. They said there's 2 different scenarios. If you can prove negligence, then we'll go back and we'll basically sue them for that money. But if there was no negligence involved, then that's on you. That is what
Well-
we have been told by multiple insurance agents.
Well, I would have to disagree with that at this point, because if your neighbor is burning trash
Right?
and an ember floats over and catches your roof on fire, they're liable.
But that's
Period.
proving negligence because they were
No, it's
burning
not.
and they let that through. Where this is, we've said it's okay for you to set your solar panels here, and all of a sudden one goes up in flames, which has been happening across the country here and there. That's not the same thing because we weren't out there burning solar panels, but we were burning the trash or leaves or trees. So the hard part here is that no one will write this down. They all tell us the same thing,
Well, exactly.
but they won't write it down.
Yeah, I still have a serious disagreement with that based on everything I know about property and casualty
Okay.
insurance. If your neighbor's house catches on fire from a lightning strike, act of God, and that
Right.
fire spreads to your house, their insurance would be liable for your damage because the fire from their house spread.
What I was told that they could go after them, but it still is not. I would pay my deductible and it would be on me
yeah.
unless they could actually
They'd
win that.
subrogate.
Right.
I mean, they always do
Right.
that.
But that's not always guaranteed. And they also said that in that case, my insurance stands the risk of going up afterwards, as
Well,
opposed to
The simple solution to that is, and I think we can probably do this during the course of the approval process, is require a certificate of insurance from
for each landowner to, and that would be good. I mean, that would be good.
Mike, you're exactly right. That's what I was thinking about that, and I think is how little time be able, now that we've heard what this is gonna be all about, get Chris
Yeah,
with you,
yeah.
with the commissioners, see what it takes to be covered in our work.
Yeah, we're just making.
And this
it a
is not to be a
requirement.
pain. This is just a concern.
Oh, no,
I mean, I've watched online the solar panels burning, and once they burn, there's no stopping them. So we've talked to some of the fire departments around and asked them what the plan would be if a fire started, and they said, nothing. We have no training. We have no experience. The risk of shock is way too high, and those things will burn. We will let them burn. The most that we could possibly do is spray around the panels. Now, that's not only with solar fields. They even said that with houses. Like we'd have to just kind of spray around them and let them burn out. But that, to me, I mean, not having a fire plan, not having some sort of training or anything for those folks seems dangerous to them and dangerous to, us as residents.
I have a question maybe somebody can answer. Say a farmer is out there, he's picking corn, and he's close to your woods, his combine catches on fire.
Yep.
Burns across, catches your woods on fire. Who's liable?
That would, from what I've been told from the insurance company, that would be on the farmer because it's their equipment. Something malfunctioned with their equipment. So that would be on them from what I've been told.
Exactly the same,
Yes.
exactly the same principle.
But that's not what I was told about solar. I was told different about solar, which kind of was like, that doesn't make sense to me. But I thought when I heard it from one insurance company, it was kind of like, no, that's just maybe something, maybe it was misunderstood.
Well,
But then I called my insurance company. Then another one of us called their insurance company. Then another one called their insurance company, and they kept saying the same thing. We're like, man, that's weird.
Sounds like a little CYA going on there, quite frankly. But the only person or entity that can give you a specific answer on that is whoever the insurance company for the solar project is going to be. And, like Jim and I were talking, it's very easy to add that certificate of insurance requirement.
Unless there's something federal, that everybody wants to.
Yeah, I understand.
Political statement.
I mean, I would think a certificate of insurance would be a great step. Or, even the solar coming in through and saying, you know what, if our panels catch and we burn yours down, we're going to take care of it. We're not going to leave you high and dry. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a precedent for that.
Yeah.
I mean, if an I&M line drops and causes damage,
I totally agree, except what we've heard this morning, and it bears investigating.
I was stunned by what the insurance companies told me. Like, I was like, no, there's no way this can be this is true. But that's
I appreciate you,
yeah.
bringing that up, and we'll make sure that that's addressed.
We need every bit and pieces that we can gather in
Yeah.
order to make a good decision on this
Yes,
project.
and that's just it. This is a massive change, a massive undertaking, and a massive shock to residents and citizens. So anything, I mean, in my mind, it would be, how can we protect those people? That's first and foremost in my head.
Will you have them visually inside of your property?
Oh, they'll literally, so my house is here. My pond is here where I play every day of the summer with my nephews. 20 foot next. Super excited
Well,
about it.
that can't happen.
Well, it can because it's 400 foot from the foundation. So in the country, that's nothing. 400 foot is nothing from the foundation of your home. In town, it might be, but out in the country, it's not. So even if, 300 feet foot to my property, but it's not the ordinance. That's right on the property. So as my niece and nephews play all summer, we're going to solar. So, I mean, it can happen because the offsets were not set back from property line. If the offsets were set back from property line, I'd be much better. I wouldn't be nearly as upset about it because then I can say, okay, cool. I'm going to get 400 foot from my property line. That's perfect. It just, I'm basically not going to be able to use the property that I bought it for and that I've enjoyed for the last 9 years. it's gonna disturb that immensely. So that's why you're gonna see me every week for the next foreseeable future.
We'll be having a public meeting on the solar project. It'll be a night meeting.
Okay.
At some point, we don't have a date yet, obviously, for that, but everybody will be invited to have a say.
This is gonna seem accusatory, but it is not. This is not accusatory. I have a question. 2 weeks ago, you guys had an executive meeting, and we were told that included solar. There was nothing in the agenda that said solar or green. We were also told that if it was involving solar, it would say solar or green. Something to let us know. That's what we were told. That being said, my question would be why it was an executive meeting. Because there's a stringent list of reasons that you can have an executive meeting. And as I read through there, I couldn't find any that would make solar a private, executive, non-public.
It's not anything to do with it being solar. It has to do with, we can have an executive meeting to discuss potential economic development, whether it's a factory or transportation or retail.
That's fine.
or
That's what I
whatever.
wondered, is if that's what it was classified under. Yep.
Yep.
No, I've read through them all, so I get,
The
I just
notice-
wondered how you classified it.
The notice that was posted online, paper, on the doors, everywhere, it has the state statute on it
The state statute for,
for why they can have the executive session for.
oh, yeah.
But the specific piece
I just
of
wondered
it.
the very specific for solar being in that. That's all I wondered.
Okay,
Like I said, it was not accusatory.
I'm just saying.
I just wondered
if you
the
look
reasoning.
at, if you
Yeah.
look at those, the IC code is on there so you can reference
Oh,
it.
on the actual agenda, it'll say why it's,
It's on the executive.
Beautiful.
On the executive
I
session
told you I'm new at
notice.
this. I've never done this, so I don't know all these things. I'm trying to learn as quickly as I possibly can, so.
Just to give you a little insight here, because
Yeah,
there
this
is
was
a
the notice.
substantial amount of misinformation floating
Yeah.
around.
And I would like to know real information.
Yeah.
If you want the statute, you got something to write on?
Yeah.
It's Indiana Code 5-14-1.5-6.1, in paren, small b, close paren, 4, close paren, either one or I can't. I,
Perfect.
I.
Thank you.
Period.
I appreciate that.
Another comment, Mike.
So we've had a solar ordinance in place for a year now. And we spent, what, 3 months working on that? Maybe longer.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we had a lot of public
6
meetings,
months.
took a lot of public input and so forth. So now we have a solar company in the process of submitting a development plan. And there's a statutory process for that to happen. The Plan Commission considers that.
Yep.
Their scope of consideration is whether or not the development plan meets all of these requirements.
I've read every last one, just so you're aware. I've read
Okay.
through the entire UDO, and I've read through the entire comprehensive plan. So I'm familiar with that, but keep going.
Okay, well, and that.
Just so
I
you
mean,
know
that's-
my knowledge on it.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Okay, I just
Yep,
wanted
yep.
to kind of give you the process. I mean,
Yep.
the consideration there is, does it meet all of the requirements of the solar? The development plan is not complete yet, so we really don't know what all the specifics are. You know, there's a number of agreements that need to be negotiated and worked on and so forth, so.
Yep. And I called last week to see where the development plans were, if they had been submitted. They said, I was like, oh, they're still working. So, I mean, they have to do their entire development plan, which is pretty rigorous,
Yeah.
it looks like.
Well, yeah, and I think it's probably going to be probably a month before that's ever, or maybe longer before that's
Yeah.
ready to submit. But as Bill said, the Plan Commission will have to hold a public meeting on that, on the total of the project, so.
Okay. Another question, just based on the solar ordinance itself. Why was it done as an overlay as opposed to like wind was done? Because everywhere I've seen on like the Indiana guidelines for overlays and those types of things, what it typically says is typically with an overlay, it's not giving more, uses. it's typically more restrictions. So the classic example in Indiana guidelines for, the overlays and stuff is you've got a residential area downtown. Happens to be very historic. You do a historic overlay to make it harder to change that general ambiance and such, or that style. So it seems like the most part, the solar ordinance, so you overlay whatever's there before, that applies. Then you have your solar ordinance, and that does have further restrictions. But then it just gives one more use to the land. I mean, that's the effective, as I understand it. And if I'm wrong, tell me, because I don't. But it seems like it didn't really give more, hey, you can do whatever you want here. But it did allow the use of solar on that land, which seems like it would have been more like, put in more like wind as opposed to an overlay. I just wondered what the thought behind the overlay was.
Well, virtually all of the solar ordinances in the state are overlay districts for those. And basically what that does is prevents or avoids spot zoning situations.
Wait, what was the last thing you said?
It avoids spot zoning.
Spot zoning.
Yeah.
Okay, I just couldn't hear you. So I would assume that means basically even in the case of someone building a house, rezoning to residential, it's just these little chunks.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you got
Okay.
pieces all over the place.
I think for the most part, that's it for today.
Thank you.
I will have more questions, and I appreciate you guys. Thank you for taking the time and actually giving me answers, because there is a lot of misinformation. So it's good to get, from your guys, here's what was done. So, thank you.
Yeah, in future meetings, we will not always just light on the schedule.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I get
We would
it.
call in and.
If there's not time, there's not time.
Yeah,
So,
and get 15 minutes or half hour, we do it in 15-minute chunks.
yep. Thank you so much.
I would like to just say that, we spent a good deal of time and consideration when we did this ordinance to make sure that non-participating property owners were protected, and at the same time, the economic development sector of the county, which will have a very positive financial impact on everybody in the county, was also treated fairly. So we want to make sure that we're taking care of all the property owners. And this is, at least, I'll just speak personally, this is a property rights issue, as far as I'm concerned.
Like a personal property rights, I can do what I want with my land.
Yeah, exactly.
Which there is an entire, body of law with nuisance rights or, nuisances. And as soon as someone uses their property that inhibits me from utilizing my property, that's an issue too. But I get it. I'm one of those people. I don't want to tell people what they can do with their property, but I also don't want them hindering my enjoyment of my property that I paid for.
Yeah, and that'll be taken into account too. I made a note about that 20 feet from your woods.
It's going to be ridiculous. It's one thing that
And
worries me.
I don't want to take up a whole bunch of time with
No,
this.
Yeah,
but
we have to move on.
but
If you guys
tell
got the time, I'm willing to listen.
This is,
I'm
this
just
is
going
all
to tell you.
discussion
I'm
for,
going to tell you real quickly.
Yeah.
I was at a Association of Indiana Counties conference a couple of weeks ago, and I sought out other counties that have had solar installations and wind installations for quite some time, and all of these horror stories that keep floating around because somebody Googled something or another just haven't developed in any of those counties. And I've talked to counties that have had solar since 2010, 2014.
How big are those?
1,000 acres or more.
So our 3 planned projects equaling 5,000 to 6,000 acres.
That's not the information that I have.
That's what we've been told.
Well, you may have been told incorrectly.
So even if one of those represents, from what we've seen, and we have some maps, we don't have the third project, but the other 2 are massive. And the one by my house is 1,800. All of those based on what they have laid out now or what's projected, as of July of 2021, all qualify in the top 15 largest solar installations in the entire country. Right. May not be planned solar installations, but what is actually up and running as of last year in July, all of our projects will be in the top 15 in the country for size.
Well, the one that is in the process of
And a lot
submitting
of them
their
are in
development
process.
plan, as I understand, is 1,200 acres. Now, there are gross acres and there are net acres.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, the one out here on 69 is an
Five,
80,
isn't it?
is an 80 acre, but it only has
55.
55 acres or 52 acres of solar panels.
Right.
So there are, two different figures there.
As far as the notification and people understanding or knowing about this, and obviously you got to be a little bit involved, but the solar companies went around a couple weeks ago to my installation and handed out packets and told people about it. And they've been in the works for this for a very long time. And this is the first any of those people had ever heard about it, had even heard of solar. I mean, it's difficult because it's not always clear. Like I said, the agenda for the executive meeting said nothing green or nothing solar, so it was hard. So sometimes it seems to people like, not that we're being lied to, but we're being kept in the dark purposely. And I'm only saying that because of things like that, where it wasn't in the agenda. So that makes a lot of people get riled up for no reason. You know what I
Well,
mean?
the public agendas are different than, we don't have to print an agenda for an executive session because it's a closed session. But an agenda like this meeting today has an agenda, and if solar is part of the discussion, it'll be on the agenda.
Okay.
If the plan
Well, I'm just saying
commission,
that's what riles people up.
And I've got to cut this off.
Yeah.
Speaking of agenda, we have an agenda.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah.
Ken, lady. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
I got to get to work. I'm going to hop out, but I appreciate everybody's time.
okay.
You bet. Thanks, Randy. Ben,
Good morning. How are you guys today?
good. Buzzing along, almost. That guy should run for commissioner.
He'd learn a lot, wouldn't he? Well, unfortunately, that's the thing with most people, is that they pick up what they can on the internet or what so-and-so tells them, and there's so much more to it. You guys know that.
Yeah,
Chris.
and
Well,
look at all of the hearings through development services we had leading up to this.
Yeah.
Can't say he wasn't informed, but he didn't pay
People don't pay
attention to the
attention.
notices, and that's a common issue. People don't look at those legal notices.
I hear this all the time,
yeah,
the same thing,
well,
and Andy can
yeah,
attest.
I have too.
Yeah, well, I didn't know about it. Well, it was in the paper. Well, I don't take the paper. Well,
Yeah, and
what are you going to do?
you got to be
You
informed.
know, they don't,
Well, and the other side of that too is everybody constituent-wise has their own little narrow area of concern. Well, we've got 42,000 people we've got to look out for,
right.
So the group of 50 people who are against solar, we've got a whole lot of other things to consider.
Yeah, it's pretty complicated
Yeah, it is.
on
It
our
is.
end. It's like you say, it's not just one subject.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
have to deal with. All right, Ben.
Well, I sent you guys an email last week from Ron Francis from
Yes.
Butler, Fairman, Seifert on the Howard property, County Road 56. I did not hear back from anybody, other than me and Jim did speak briefly on it. They're looking for an answer, and I didn't know if you guys thought over that or what your thoughts are.
I think we need to stick with what we proposed. There's no rush to actually do this, is there? Seeing that this is not going to happen until 25.
Correct. We could potentially go in 24 yet. They wanted my project to be shovel-ready in case funds come available. But But technically, we're scheduled for letting in, I think, January of '25.
Yeah.
You know what? With this, Ron Francis has done a lot of property litigations and settlements and compromising. You know, he sounds like this is a fair amount and would be a good in the county's best interest in the county to accept that. But ultimately, it's your guys' decision.
Well, the problem I have with him coming back at us wanting more is that he's trying to capture the spike in assessment or in property value. And, you know, it's went up and it looks like it's going to go the other way. And I'd be willing to pay a happy average of that. But to hit it at the top is, and there's no rush to do it, I don't see why we would do that. I just don't. I mean, I understand his wanting to get the most out of it he can, but, you know, this thing isn't going to sustain, I don't believe.
He has, though, backed down and given smaller amounts to settle, and we've stayed consistent with, as you said, we've stayed consistent with what we've had. I can tell you from experience, and it doesn't happen all that often when you get a project like this, but I can go back to the days of SDI. I can go back to the last commissioners having one, and it was the one right near Auburn Drive and County Road 35. And the county ended up on a percentage basis paying more going through mediation. I was not part of the mediation. It was just the three commissioners at the time. There's a tendency to consider municipalities like you consider GM or other large corporations. They got deep pockets and you end up getting pressure from the mediator to come up. And I'm not sure that the difference right now with Mr. Howard's last offer, I'm not convinced that the county wouldn't end up paying more if we go to the mat on it. Now, I don't want to make the decision. I'm not talking about it in that sense, because I don't have a right to make the decision. It's up to you guys. I just think when you've got somebody who does this for a living, who's representing the interests of the county, that is Ron Francis, I think you need to take a serious look at it, or maybe ask him to participate at a meeting and explain in detail where he thinks the risks are and everything before you make a decision, yes or no. It's just a suggestion.
Now, we're what, $24,000, or just under $25,000 apart from his.
Right. The original offer was 40,000, 55.
Right, and he's down to 65, so, I mean, considering the scope of the project and $25,000, I'm inclined not to screw with it, just settle and be done with it.
And that's a very valid position, given what typically happens in these kinds of situations. I can't say I agree with you because I don't have a vote. but
Well, but you're getting paid for legal advice, so that's,
yeah.
yeah.
I understand what Bill's saying completely.
Yeah,
And, you know, I just know talking to Ron, and
I'm not
I
fine.
really, I value, I mean, Ron is, I've worked with him quite a little bit through this process, and he's a really sharp individual. He's done us a good job, and he's told me some experiences he's had, kind of like with Jim. You know, and all I said, I can bring it to you guys and see which direction you want to go.
Yeah. Well, I understand, Bill's viewpoint too. I always get a little irritated when people keep coming, start negotiation and they keep coming back for a little bit more. But since he's come off of his request by 10 grand, that's moving in the right direction for me. And if you're and I don't know Ron, so, but if what you're saying as far as his experience and expertise is true, I don't have any objection to settling.
You also have a right, you can make another counter
Yeah,
if you like. You don't have to go with this, you can,
sure, we can split.
you can make a counter and he can go back with that. I don't know where it will go. I haven't dealt with this guy. According to Ron, he's been pretty decent. But it's up to you guys.
I'm debating whether to counter or to table it until next week. Todd will be back next week.
I was going to suggest this is enough of a decision that involves money that you should all three weigh in on it.
Let's table it. Like I say, we don't have to jump into this. It's not like it's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
Let's table it till next week.
Yeah, I'm all right with that.
And I take your point
Yeah.
too, that, maybe we should just, but let's get all three of us involved
Yeah.
and have a conversation.
Sure.
And 17.
We, Todd would have phoned in today, but he has no consistent internet or telephone down
Did he
there.
go to check out his Florida property?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been down
Been
there.
It's awful. I don't know if you've looked online.
I assume
Fort
so.
Myers Beach got hit harder than anybody.
And that's where he's right there. His house wasn't too bad, but he had
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I
2
didn't know
inches of
that.
water in it. But his boat is still in the yard. He can't get a crane big enough to pick it up because it's of the reach. He's got to reach like 65 feet to get to it.
Holy smoke.
So it takes
You
a
got
big,
a lot of counterweight on
takes a
it.
big crane to do that, to reach out there, because the boat's
Yeah.
a good-sized boat. But anyway, he says he'll be back Friday. If he's not, I'm going to cut his pay.
We'll,
Said he's going to be back last Friday, so.
Is that covered in the overlay for the solar panels?
Right. Anyway, let's do that. What else you got, Ben?
Okay, well, I got a driveway request here that I looked at and worked on a little bit. I meant to print off a aerial, and I forgot that this morning, so I apologize. This is a current home that is already built in there. The owner is David Spade. He lives at 0536 County Road 28. Okay, so his property, my understanding is, was the original homestead of his mother-in-law's. So she lives just to the east of him. So the old farm drive goes in and then splits. One goes to hers, one goes to his. That whole drive is on the mother-in-law's property, plot. So when you go out to the roadway, a little bit of the flare, I didn't measure it, but just the flare of the culvert pipe would actually be on his side. Other than that, that whole driveway and drive up to his property is completely on hers. He told me there was no deeded right-of-way or agreement done because it was family at that point in time. I don't know when that was. But now there's hard feelings. And so he has now been driving in and out of his yard, and he approached me about getting another drive. Well, when you go out there, the drive that's there should not even be there, theoretically. He's got road frontage out front, because right now, the current drive only has 276 feet of sight distance to the east, because it's on a hill. So, I mean, the crown of the hill is here, and he's probably here. So he's got 276 feet. Well, he wants to go to the west, clear the west end of his property, which will give him 465 feet. So it's actually safer than where he's at now. But it don't get the 495 feet he needs. And then if you add the downgrade, even if you take it at a 3%, that's going to make it 525. He's still short of the sight distance that we require. So that's why I wanted to bring it to you guys today, because the home's existing. It's there. There's a family dispute. The only other thing he told me he thought about doing was extending off that drive where it's at, maybe adding 10 feet to it, come in and then curve back over into his property. Really the only other option he's got, without going to court with his mother-in-law to get a designated right-of-way or easement. The whole farm looked like it was his, or was supposed to be his, and like I said, this is none of my business. Because when I pulled up on Beacon, it showed he had more property. Well, that's going back to the mother-in-law, supposed to be done at the end of last week. So he's only got a three acre parcel there.
He said he's got, if he goes clear to the west, he's got 475 feet?
465 feet
65, so he's 30 feet short.
off of a flat roadway, yes.
Yeah.
But if you had to downgrade,
A little bit more than that.
you know, but he's
55.
there now. I mean, they've got Mark measured 276 now. So, and County Road 28 is a busy road and they are traveling 55. You know, so
What was the address on that?
0536,
305?
05.
05. Oh, that's clear over.
He's on the south side of the road.
Okay.
You know, it's a newer home, nice place. Personally, there's the site, I mean, since he's there, I mean, if he wasn't there, I wouldn't permit the drive.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's going to be, he's going to have more footage, allowing him to put one on the west, and he's willing to pay to put the drive in, because his house is on the east side, so he's going to have to come up clear across that whole property.
I think I'm in agreement that we allow him to do that. You know, it's existing, it's going to be safer than the existing drive. At least we're going to reduce the traffic out of that existing drive, which is far more dangerous. So, yeah, I think
Yeah, I agree.
we go ahead and give him that permit.
Okay.
All we need is a consensus.
I was just gonna say, do they need to motion that or just,
I think it's something you ought to have a motion.
Okay.
So that'd be for David Spade, the property 0536 County Road 28, to allow him a drive at his far west property with the known site distance of only being 465 feet, instead of the required be 525.
25.
okay, you said on the west side of his property?
All right. I will move that we allow David Spade to put a drive at the west side of his property at 0536 County Road 28 at a site distance of 465 feet as a variance from the normal requirement of 525.
I'll second that motion. Are there any additional comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same. Motion is carried. Okay, Ben. What's next?
Yeah, so I hate to do that because there's been instances with the driveways, but when you got one that's existing,
Yeah, I think it's,
I mean, you do get stuck occasionally, and that's why I don't like shared driveways.
yeah.
And like I say, typically they're on the property line. This one's not.
Yeah.
It's a bad deal.
That'll clean up any future disputes as far as
Yeah.
We've been working on,
property sale. Yeah, just clean it up.
you know, yeah. The other thing I got, just kind of a consensus to see what you guys' opinion is. We just put a pipe in on County Road 27, south of 64, north of 28, in the county ditch there. And just north of that, there's a big dip in the road, constantly floods. There's a drain pipe that goes, that's in the bottom of that low area, that flows south into that open ditch. The problem with that is, the ditch isn't very deep, so when the water comes up, it backs up in that low point. Well, the surveyor's getting that ditch dipped. I'm not sure how much more that's going to help, but it is going to help some. The pipe that is in there now, I can't say how good a shape it is in. It is just out of our right-of-way, some in our right-of-way. But that road does flood, we do have to close that road fairly regular because of the flooding. And then that bowl, it gets deep. I know Tim Knott's going to dip that, and Jeff Barkus approached me about that flooding down there. and that he would be willing to dedicate the county from 64 up to the end of his property, which would be just on the other side of that ditch, a 40-foot right-of-way through there, if we would be willing to replace that pipe from that low area. Originally, I wanted to try to elevate that road and raise that, because I'm not so sure with replacing the pipe is going to correct the problem. Because of the elevation and the height that water gets, I don't think the surveyor is going to be able to dip that enough to keep the flow going, to keep the elevation down, where it still won't equal out in that low ground. See what I'm saying? But in order to raise that road, we'd have to build that up probably 3 foot to keep it from flooding. And then to do that, to flare out our sides and then still put a drain back there, we're going to extend out of our right of way. Barkus is on the west side. He's okay with it. The property owner on the east side's not so much okay with it. So without going through I'm not sure if maybe I went out and talked to him, but I know Mark's talked to him. Don't sound like he's got a consensus to allow any of that to happen. So short of me talking to him, I don't know if that's going to even be an option without going through some type of condemnation, trying to buy the right of way. Because if we build that road up, I've got to have banks to get that out to hold that.
Yeah.
We've only got 10 foot off the road, and then we're going to push the water back, and we're still going to have to put our drain down in the low area. We're going to need more right of way. But I want to go out there with Mark and try to shoot some grade and see where we would be at elevation-wise, but there is a drain there now. It's just how well it is, it does go down eventually. I don't know if us replacing this pipe would keep it down more or make it go down quicker. But if he was willing to dedicate that 40 foot, if we can make this work, I don't know if you guys would be in agreement to that. Because we would need that extra footage probably to avoid utilities, and it would be a lot handier to have that extra right-of-way footage to run that pipe through there. It will be fairly deep at the ditch because the bank's up, to get down to the bottom of the grade we'd have to be. That pipe comes out low in there. You can't see it most of the time in that ditch now. It comes out low. It has that low point, and it's only a foot deep down there at the low point, and then we got fall going south. It's probably 300 foot, maybe. I didn't scale it. You guys would, he entertained it, and before I put a whole lot of work and effort in it, I wanted to see if you guys would be in agreement if he was going to dedicate his property.
Yeah, I think that would be the way to go on it, and really trying to get more right of way on that other side. I hate to go through that.
I could talk to the gentleman. I have not personally talked to him.
Well, it wouldn't hurt to have a conversation just to see if,
Yeah, why don't you try one more time with him, or you try with him, and if that doesn't work out, then we'll go the other. Let's go the other.
yeah.
And even if we did raise that road, I still think we may have to replace that pipe. Keep it drained in and get it to drain away.
Well, that'd be the time to replace it if it's got any age on it at all. It's,
So the right of way from Barkus would probably still be necessary. That way we could move that pipe back, the back of our drops from the slopes off the road, put it there, put a pipe underneath the road to catch the ones on the west side, or east side, float to the west. Because there's a pipe there now, but it's just so low, guys. It just,
Yeah.
and where we drain it to, it's just this.
yeah, let's see if that'll work out.
Okay, I'll continue with that.
I think it'd be good to bring that road up, if we can. If we can't, then let's go the other route, for sure. Okay?
All right, I'll continue to work with that and keep you updated. So, but that's all I have for you guys.
On the discussion, it has on there, in your Mill Street discussion.
I didn't know if we were doing this, but I think you're waiting for Todd to talk about that.
Oh, for the
The-
damage.
the damage.
Yeah, the damage.
Yeah.
I was thinking Todd was gonna be back, so I thought you wanted to. I was thinking Todd was gonna be back, so I thought
Yeah.
we'd be talking about
Yeah.
it, but we'll wait.
We can still, we got 10 minutes to break. If you're done, you can still hash it around a little bit. Personally, I think we need to revisit the buggy ordinance. It could be the time to do it. I don't know, Jim, we talked a little bit on the phone about picking damages, those damages, and I'm not sure, I don't know what that's going to involve, if they're going to even entertain the idea of paying that and what we'd have to go through to collect it. I think I actually would like to put it back on the agenda and get it advertised for another public meeting.
Public hearing, or
Public hearing.
just on your agenda?
Yep, let's get it advertised.
Public meeting have to take input from the people who are present, or you can say no. Public hearing, that has to be advertised. Or there's more
Yeah.
importance to a public
Public
hearing.
hearing, yeah. Just depends on whether you want more public comment or not, or whether you just want it on the agenda for us to discuss.
You don't want public comment, I want the hearing.
Okay.
Yeah.
We know who organized the parade. And we know that they contacted the assistant fire chief at Spencerville about traffic control, and were told that they needed to talk to the county, talk to the sheriff about traffic control, and was suggested they talk to the highway superintendent about actually doing it. Well, I talked to Mayor Hartman about it. He asked me that, if they organize a parade or something, they have to get the correct permissions and so forth. And, I think we're in the same situation. I've had actually more comment from the public about this particular thing than I did about the buggy ordinance. But I would suggest that we have a discussion about at least making an attempt to send a bill for the damages, whether we, how strong of a case we have or not, I don't know, but I think that it would send an appropriate message if we at least pursue that.
I don't have any issue with pursuing it at this point, but I can't predict how a court would view it if you ended up in litigation.
Yeah, understand.
Because there were no posted restrictions on the use of that road for vehicles. It'd be a tough one.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any ability to do any looking to see if I could find something out of it. Our law firm, while I was gone, this was not me,
Yeah.
had our email crashed, basically. So we were without anything for a week, and frankly, with all the moving around, I can't tell you that I would have done it and being evacuated and
Well,
then.
it's pretty hard for you to dig into too much down there, but I'd like to at least investigate
I think it's
the
worth
potential
it.
for at least setting an example that we're serious about this.
Well, but then that begets to make it enforceable in the future, having some sort of an ordinance, and then if you have an ordinance, does it get held against you? In this case, because you didn't have an ordinance that restricted traffic in any way. I mean, we have load limits for our county roads that aren't regularly enforced, but at least we have them. This doesn't fit under that category either. So I'm not sure what I'm going to find, but I'm more than happy to look into it.
I've gotten comments, phone calls about, why didn't you pass an ordinance? Why did you give up on the ordinance? And there's quite a few people down there that think we should have that buggy ordinance.
Well,
So
and
I think
I
think this is the time to get that support. I know we'll get the support for an ordinance. It'll be a lot different hearing than
yeah,
what we had the
and I
first
was
time.
gone for when you decided not to
Yeah,
go forward with it, but you know, you make decisions based upon the best available information that you have at the time. Hindsight is 20/20, but nothing else is 20/20 when it comes to governmental matters like that.
Let's do this. Let's send them a bill. And as far as the, let's table anything, let's table the discussion about a public hearing until Todd comes back
Yeah,
next week. But let's go ahead and send him a bill.
okay.
The guy's address, guy's phone number.
I don't have his address. I only had a name and a phone number. I have no idea where he lived.
You got his name?
Name and phone number.
Name and phone
Well,
number.
you check Beacon with that name. That doesn't necessarily, if he owns other real estate, it's not gonna get you there, but at least you've got contact information for him. What address do the tax duplicates get sent to?
Well, somebody out in Spencerville is gonna know who he is and where
Yeah.
he lives anyway, so. We should be able to track down an address.
Yeah. I'll work on that.
So I am or I'm not advertising for a public hearing?
No, you're
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Scribble that off.
Fine with me.
All right, let's do the pledge. I think
Are we coming back?
I did last week, yeah.
Todd's going to owe us a bunch, isn't he?
He is. He's gonna have to do it for 6 weeks straight.
Yeah, at least.
Are we coming back?
Are we coming back?
You have anything else?
Nothing else?
I don't have, nothing of any consequence.
I don't have anything.
I got some stuff
We
I'll,
are adjourned. Let's do pledge.
I've got some stuff I'll email you guys later, but nothing needs to be discussed.
I get that address to you or to Susan?
Probably me.